Hi and welcome to my channel's Sysadmin Toolkit. This is a channel where I seek to add value to the life of persons who want to venture into the field of information technology, and in particular those who are already in the field of system administration, um, network administration, security, um, everything that has to do with um, computer systems, networks. Right, that's what I'm passionate about, and my channels are geared towards adding value to persons by sharing my experiences in various ways. But in this video, particularly, I just want to spend some time to look at systems administration, and more so to um, help other persons who want to venture into this field, right? Just to share with you um, a breakdown of what is involved in the life of a system administrator. And this is also aligned with industry standards in terms of what is expected in the corporate environment once you decide to venture into this field of becoming a system administrator. Even network administrator, system engineer, some of these tasks do overlap. Right, so this is just a measure to help you lay that foundation of what to expect, and for also those who are in the field as well, that you might also use this as a guideline to even sharpen your skills to become more competent in executing your duties on a day-to-day basis. Right, so when you think about system administration, um, just reflecting many years or decades ago, system admins of basically large in the shadows, right, in the background, to maintain the uptime and accessibility of the important IT services within the organization. Right? So normally these are the persons who work in the background, right? So persons in organizations, the end users, they use systems, they enjoy the services that are offered by these systems in terms of delivering the necessary services to your customers or clients, right? But not many persons are really understand what goes on in the background for these systems to work, and that is where the job of the system administrator comes in, right? That person that oversees the entire deployment, development, configuration, maintenance, operation of the IT infrastructure that delivers these various types of services required for organization to operate. Right? So system administrators are normally tasked with the installation, right? Maintenance, configuration, repair, right? Repair for servers, networks, and many interconnections of different devices, computer systems, right? So these persons normally get their hands in both hardware and software, right? Learn a little bit of programming and scripting to execute various tasks and actions across their various applications and infrastructure, right? And if you move to the what is now described as the role of DevOps, right? Software developers are even becoming more like system admins, and system admins are becoming more like developers, right? Leading to what I believe is now better collaboration and tighter feedback loops across all teams that work within the organization, right? So because the system administrator role has changed so much in the, I would say, the last decade, 10 to 15 years, we a number of roles, a number of things have changed as it relates to being a system administrator, right? Your responsibilities have extended to a great dimension, right? So I want us to just, let me just quickly dive in, right? So we're looking at the system administrator responsibilities and skills, right? So pretty much as a sysadmin, you're essentially maintaining the entire technology and IT stack. That's pretty much what is in your portfolio, right? And in the technology industry, this means that you are literally maintaining a system holding up your entire business or your entire company or organization, right? So for every second that a website or a server goes down, then it means loss of productivity, revenue, and if the cost of downtime. So you understand from the get-go that the responsibility of a system administrator is very um, huge, right? So above all, system admins need to be um, very efficient problem solvers, right? So having to deal with numerous operating systems, network configurations, and security concepts or concerns to keep in mind, right? Being a effective system administrator means that you can learn new things and maintain strong feedback loops within your organization or within the team that you work, right? So let us now look at some of these responsibilities as a system administrator, right, that you are required to carry out. Right, so system admin responsibilities. Right, and the first one that we're looking at is as a system admin, then you're required to carry out monitoring and alerting. Right, so depending on your toolkit, as my channel is all about, depending on your toolkit or your, they would say your technology stack, the system administrator is in charge of monitoring and alerting across your applications and infrastructure, right? So you are responsible for monitoring core server, network metrics like CPU, disk usage, DNS, latency, right? All of these things you are responsible for, right? Maintaining baselines, monitoring thresholds, right? It's also important that as system admin, you know how to use both external system outputs and metrics to determine the health of the various systems that you work with, right? So that's one of the first thing, being able to master the skill of monitoring and alerting as a system admin, right? The other thing that you're responsible to do as a system administrator is user permissions and administration, right? A very critical role or function of the system administrator, right? So system administrators are generally in charge of user permissions and administration for all applications and services. System admins can assign user roles and manage the entire organization IT stack, right? Allowing everyone the access they need to certain applications and services in a secure way, right? So this in itself is a huge task, managing permissions, right? Who has access rights to what server, to what file, to what device, right? What they can do with the access that they have, right? Very critical function, right? As a system administrator, you're responsible for password management, right? So you are tasked with managing passwords, password policies, password best practices across the company, right? Establishing password resets, ensuring security requirements are met everywhere, right? Using things like, I mean, two-factor authentication, right? So the system administrator is in charge of managing all these tools as it relates to password management to, in essentially, help employees to get access to the systems they need and when they need to get access, right? File organization and management. So as a system admin, you are responsible to ensure data organization and consistency. The system admin will usually place policies and procedures around the way files are organized and shared within the organization, right? So along with the most of the other system admin responsibility, this is to ensure security from external attacks as well as ensuring appropriate easy access to files for employees. As a system admin, you're also responsible for systems usage, policies, and procedure. Right? And at a very general level, the system administrator will need to define best practices for working within the organization's systems, which includes things like everything from proprietary software you're building to different third-party IT applications and services. Right? Showing employees how to use systems in a secure, productive way. System admins are able to completely change the way work is conducted within an organization. Right? As a system admin, you're also responsible for software installation, updates, and the upkeep, right, of these applications. Right? So you have to put policies and procedures in place to keep up with software installation and updates. And if there are any errors with new updates and interdependencies between new versions of systems, right? As a system admin, you are responsible to test updates, test installations before deploying within the production environment. Right? So as a system admin, you're also responsible for redundancies, rollovers, and recovery plans. Right? So you should have active, updated platforms for redundancies, rollover, and incident recovery. Right? So through effective monitoring, alerting, and cross-functional communication, a system administrator should be able to quickly detect any failures and remediate IT incidents. So you recognize that at this point, the role of a system admin or the responsibility is vast, right? So as a system admin, then you're required to do a lot of research, right? You have to be very strategic and taking the time to look at best practices and to put things in place that actually keep the system running, or the various systems that are interconnected running as efficiently and as safe as possible to deliver the services required by the organization. Right? The overall thing is to maintain uptime to reduce costs. Right? That can also damage the reputation of your organization. Right? Another important responsibility is that of security, and this one in itself is a never-ending discussion in terms of the various levels of security that they are required to execute or to implement within your organization. Right? But security should be, for me, is one of the top things that should be on your mind as a system admin. Right? It should be the top of the list in terms of securing your system. That should be the prime thing. Right? So every system administrator should have this as their top priority, whether it's user permissions or the way the team maintains documentation. Right? The system admin needs to perform all actions in a secure way, right? As so, in setting up the networks, policies, or the server, the system admin must bear security as part of every single thing that they do, right? To ensure that their environment is as safe as possible. right? You are required to for maintaining documentation and updating runbooks, right? So as system admins, right, you're often tasked with maintaining documentation and keeping runbooks up to date, right? So which can be a very daunting task. So system administrators need to know how they can leverage things like automation, right, and documentation of accurate and updated information without slowing down things like the development life cycle. Right? As a system administrator, you're responsible for incident detection, response, and remediation. Right? And the words themselves pretty much explains it. But as a system administrator, right, you can't simply throw, for example, your IT and security environment together, right? You need to build it with visibility and speed in mind, right? So that's one of the things. So you have to ensure that you have things in place to easily identify when incidents occur, right? Being able to respond, how you respond, and how you actually resolve these issues quickly to minimize downtime. Right? You're also responsible for post-incident reviews. So when things do happen, then as a system admin, then you're responsible to carry out those reviews to look at what happened, what caused the various incidents within the organization, and how you can move forward to protect against these incidents from reoccurring in the future. Right? A very important skill of the or responsibility of the system admin is also preparation and problem solving. Right? Very important. Preparation, being prepared for all possible things that can happen. And in the midst of these things happening, then you have to be able to solve problems by putting various mechanisms in place. Right? That's one of the key skills of a system admin, right? Problem solver, right? And also to be very proactive. Now, as a system administrator, in order to be very effective, especially in today's environment, right, to carry out your duties, as we all know, the landscape has changed, right? So gone are the days when you only have servers connected and dumb terminals, physical networks, right? We also are now in the IoT era, right? The wireless technology, right? We are now in cloud computing. So the landscape has changed in terms of the roles of a system admin, and there are additional tasks that are now involved in system administration, right? That has even make it more complex. So system administrators need to know more about things like programming, automation, even cloud computing, right? So it's gone beyond the days of just simply rebooting servers and decommissioning all equipment, right? You have to maintain the ability or the reliability and uptime for all of your software and hardware, right? Some of these new areas that a system administrator has to look at are things like configuration, management, and automation, right? Configuration, management, and automation. So you have to even extend your knowledge, your skill set a little bit further by becoming comfortable with tools like Puppet, Chef, Ansible, right? Things like Jenkins. Alright, so these tools pretty much allows system administrators to automate a number of tasks and configurations along the release lifecycle, right? So you can do your research on those tools for configuration and management, and those tools are, like I said before, Puppet, Chef, you have Ansible, Jenkins, right? As a system admin, you also have to get on top of cloud infrastructure, right? As we all know, we are living in the age of cloud computing. So because of the takeover of cloud platforms such as you have Azure, Microsoft Azure, AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, you have GCP, which is Google Cloud Platform, system administrators everywhere pretty much need to understand how to orchestrate systems in the cloud, right? What monitoring tools to use, deployment, migration, backup, all of these things. As a system admin, you now have to become comfortable extending beyond just the physical premises, right? As a system admin, you're also required to become familiar with platforms such as Git and other version control, right? So as I mentioned earlier, that as a system admin, you're required to even get your hands um, dirty with programming, a little bit of programming, scripting, all of these things that you're required to do to be as efficient as possible, right? So that's Git. You can do some research on that as well. Scripting and programming, as I mentioned before, right? It does help in terms of automation and developing quick solutions within your organization, right? Server and network upkeep, very vital, right? So as mentioned earlier, system admins need to understand the ins and outs of server network upkeep, right? So these servers and networks are the pillars holding up your entire business or the organization that you work, right? So the servers and networks are very critical, and as you all know, those are the systems that provide value to customers. So system administrators need to be continuously improving on processes in order to maintain more reliability, reliability within their systems, right? Avoiding things like outages as much as possible, and improve incident response within an incident or when an incident does occur within the organization. Right, I mentioned scripting earlier. So from this, we recognize that the role of a system admin is very critical, right? Very critical. So I trust that these guidelines are pointers that you can use to enhance your skill set as a system administrator, right? It can act as a guide in helping you to become more efficient. And for those who are venturing into the field of system administration, then you will do further research on these various tasks, responsibilities to add that additional knowledge that is required to become the efficient, effective, or skillful system admin that organizations are looking for. Right. So this was helpful in adding value to your skill set.